everybody, it's Craig Lieberman. I'm back this week. I'm gonna start up a monthly episode of car news and happenings. I realize that there are many auto news outlets, but I feel that much of the car news is kind of watered down. And I think it's because professional writers who write for big automotive media have to be politically correct. But I'm not bound by these rules. Duh.
How dare you?
First, let's start up with this new development. After months of silence and evasion, Nissan finally confirmed that the R35 GTR ends production in October of 2024. Well, sort of. Nissan is producing two special models to mark the end of the production in 2025. It's the T-Spec, Tacoma, and Skyline editions. Some reports say final units may also be limited to 1,500 units, with 300 of those being Nismos. The R35 lived 17 years in total. Nissan has produced about 40,000 units. That's a lot. Now you gotta remember there were many firsts with the R35. For starters, the R35 GTR could go 0 to 60 in 2.7 seconds, embarrassing some hypercars. For less than $60,000, that was great. And even today, brands like Porsche, Lamborghini, and Ferrari are just now catching up. Of course, as the R35 matured, the price of the R35 ballooned to over $120,000. No domestic muscle car could beat the GTR other than the Dodge Challenger SRT 170, which is a dedicated drag race car. Upon the GTR's debut back in 2008, the motor press fell in love with the GTR, mostly I would say. However, some lamented that the GTR practically drove itself. That story is coming up right after the break. I don't know if you know this, but I actually now have a merch store, and if you haven't checked out the video description below my videos, then you're missing out. Currently, I've got a pack full of movie quote t-shirts, and more styles are being added every month, and new items are in development right now. So have a look, see if there's anything you like, and wear it with pride. The link is in the video description below. A few writers chastised the GTR for being too easy to go fast on a racetrack. I have no problem with that. Some of the writers also commented that it takes some of the fun out of the experience. I understand that. I've had 3 track cars, a Fox body Mustang, which was set up for road courses, a Porsche 996 Turbo, and a 2007 Audi RS4. I would mention my 2 Lamborghini Diablos, but those cars really didn't do well on a road course. I have had more than 40 cars in my life. I still say this. I still have my R35 GTR. It's now 10 years old. I still contend that this is the best car I've ever owned, and I have no dreams of changing. Having driven my GTR on the track several times, the GTR, in my opinion, is a predictable, honest car. If you want to see the wild side, turn off all the nannies and you'll find what it was really about. But with the end of the run, you know what's gonna happen now, right? Can you predict it? Yep, prices will start to go up. While prices started to soften a touch last year, prices are now starting to climb again. So if you want one, you better get one soon. I would say if you're on a budget, go through the 2012 to 2015. Those are the best. Nissan is still tight-lipped about the R36 GTR. Are we going to get one? Is it going to be electric? Is it going to be hybrid? I think they're waiting on regulations across the globe before they commit. So that's it. I got some more good news. This one is for you intersection takeover guys. If your Scat Pack is still sitting in the police impound, you can just go buy a brand new one. Sounds silly? Hear me out. Dodge is now sitting on 477 days worth of inventory. Now is the time to get a good deal. Leftover 2023s are the best deals right now, so have at it. But a little advice from an older gentleman, if you will allow me. Get your financing in place before you walk into the dealer. People who have credit under 650, the payments will be giant. And I see a lot of these young kids doing this, and it's a big disaster. Join a credit union and get into some attractive financing rates if you're gonna go that way. This is a great opportunity to buy a new one rather than paying too much for a used up or abused Charger or Challenger. So if you were into that, take a look at it. Let's talk about the bad news. The Supra has not been selling very well. 2023 sales were down almost 46%, and Toyota only sold 2,652 Supras in all of 2023. Worse again, Sales dropped again another 44% in the first quarter of 2024. That means only 480 Supras have been sold in the first month, despite the introduction of a true manual gearbox. What are people waiting for, man? I had higher hopes for this car. I saw the unveiling of the FT1 at a Cars and Coffee event back in around about 2014. I said this: if they make that exact car, I will buy it. And when it finally arrived to the dealerships, they were tiny, stubby, and they looked like a caricature of the FT1. I sat in the car about 2 years ago at 6 feet height and 200 pounds. There was no way I could drive that car every day. It was too cramped for me. And looking at it today, I feel kind of like that the car looks, somebody bought this car off of Timo. But this is a tragedy, it really is. The Supra is a fantastic car. The B58 engine is very capable and responds very well to modifications, asked Steph Papadakis. I suspect that the given current economic instability means that people need to be careful what they buy. A small two-door sports car is not a very practical car for many families. Further, the price for the top model is just out of the reach of many people. This is evidenced by the rise of the sale of the 400Z. Sales of the 400Z were up 46%. So we are kind of reliving the late 1990s again. The Supra is too expensive to survive, and the Nissan Z might not be far behind. Cars like the Supra and the 400Z are probably the last of their breed. But here's some good news. Toyota Gazoo Racing plans to stick with combustion engine sports cars for now. A lot of people are avoiding battery electric cars, so that's good news. But let's switch to bad news. Did any of you see the Kona Jesko go up in flames last week? Oh, the death of a $3.5 million supercar is something to mourn. One source said, at this point, there isn't a hint of how the fire started. Exotic car fire, I think I have an idea. The egg registry reports Koenigsegg sent a message to Jesko owners asking them to park their cars until this is all sussed out. So there's something that they're going to be looking at. Curiously, the email also contradicts the Autoblog report, saying witnesses had observed the Jesko being driven aggressively before the fire. Wow, what a surprise. It was also reported that it was hot outside with temperatures over 100 degrees. Burning out, revving, and all the kind of stuff in traffic in a rally in 100 degrees heat. We all know what happens on road rallies. Come on, man. It's a bunch of millionaires revving, passing on the shoulder, and avoiding the cops as best they can. In other words, it's a blast. I'm a little too old for that right now. I tend to think that maybe the owner of the car was revving or showboating prior to the incident, but of course I can't tell for sure. We'll wait to see what happens. But riddle me this. I have had several cars with big fuel systems, including my Fox body Mustang, 1,000 horsepower Supra, and several other cars, both domestic and foreign, and I've abused my cars on hot days and not. I've never had a fire, so why can't these supercar manufacturers get their fuel systems more foolproof? What's going on? Surely they know that people who drive their supercars are going to drive them hard. A good percent of the owners know very little about high-performance cars. I'd like to think the manufacturers of these high-performance supercars should be built better and have more training for the drivers. I know many cars that have built a reputation for spontaneous combustion. For example, in 2014, Porsche recalled a new 911 model due to engine fires that were caused by a loose fastener on the connecting rod. This could damage the crankcase and cause oil to leak, which would potentially start a fire. From a Porsche, inexcusable. They're always on top of this. What happened? Ferrari had its own debacle in 2010 when they recalled 1,200 458 Italia supercars due to a fire hazard caused by adhesive used in the wheel arch assembly. The basically explanation came out like this. When the car is driven at a high exhaust temperature or in hot weather, the adhesive can overheat and smoke can catch fire, and the heat from the engine can also deform the liners to protect the engine, causing the adhesive to ignite. Once the glue is on fire, the entire vehicle can burn in minutes. And one of the most famous fuel system failure was with Lamborghini back a decade or so. What happened? Every 2012 to 2017 Aventador in the United States, except the new S and late production SV models built after December 5, 2016, has a defective evaporative emission system that can let gasoline soak through its charcoal filter and into the purge valves. And when this happens, excess fuel vapors can get into contact with the hot exhaust gas and ignite. Lamborghini said that the particular maneuvers, as an example, revving at idle, can exacerbate the problem, in addition to particular handling conditions and overfilling the gas tank. In other words, if you're driving reckless and doing all this kind of stuff, the gas is going to move around, vapors, and pretty soon your Lamborghini is going to turn into a charcoal briquette. Maybe they should let the guys from Daily Driven Exotics test all those supercars. If anybody can break those cars, those guys can. Somebody make a phone call quick. But now, not to be outdone by the Italians, Ford just proved that their Mustangs are just as good as the Lamborghinis. Ford is now recalling the 2024 Mustang after discovering that the clutch pressure line could melt, leaking fluid that could prevent manual equipped models from shifting gears. Over 8,000 Mustangs have been affected. These vehicles might have a missing or improperly installed barrel nut that attaches the line to the firewall stud. If the line comes into contact with the hot exhaust components, it could melt, leaking the fluid used in the clutch system. If this accumulates near a heat source, the fluid could smoke or start a fire, according to the recall report. Drivers might experience difficulty shifting gears and fires. But honestly, every manufacturer has had their issues at one point or another, right? But when you're talking about cars that cost more than a brand new house in some states, I feel that you should be better and be on your game. Buying one of these supercars puts you in an elite crowd, but waiting for a tow truck should not be part of the experience. My advice is this: if you're in the market for a high-end supercar or pseudo supercar, seek out current owners of those cars and ask them about their experiences and the bad things and the things to look at before you buy the car and all that kind of stuff. That's it. I hope you like it. If you like it, tell me in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching. Next week, I talk about why Mustangs crash so much. Hint, it's not what you think. So go in with an open mind. See you next week.